back to the third implementation of stacks, and this implementation of stacks uses a JDK class that you're going to use a lot in your programming endeavors, and that's the array list. An array list is basically an array that dynamically adjusts itself to the amount of data that you have, that you add to it. The stack 2, we attempted to show you how to do that by, if you fill up your array, you create another one that's bigger, but that's all built in to the array list here. And so what we're going to do is take a look at what you have in terms of data. Now, data is now is not an array. It's an actual object that's an array list of integers, and this syntax is relatively new to you, and you just got to get used to it. Array list is the class, and this specifies what goes inside that data structure. Integers, not int. Don't do that. Okay, that's going to be an error. You need to use a class integer. And basically all the simple data types have what are called wrapper classes that convert that simple data type to a class. The int has the capital integer. That's what we're doing here. And so let's see, I'm trying to mimic exactly what you had before in terms of if you got no parameters, use the default capacity. Okay, this is basically creating that data structure there. Okay, that's it. You basically go ahead and you create an array list of integers with that capacity, all right, in the constructor. And what we're going to do in our coding is see, as far as the main program is concerned, the main program, the driver, which I'm going to say uses stack 3 instead of stack 2. Okay, the logic doesn't care how you do these pushes and pops. Okay, that's the beauty of a data encapsulation. You don't need the main program. The person that uses the class doesn't care how you actually do it. But when you implement it, you certainly have to care how you implement it. Okay, so we have a push method that returns a void. We pass it a number, and what you're going to use is data, which is an array list, has an add method. It's perfect. You're just going to add that number to the end of the array. That's what it does. We're leveraging the code that's already built into ArrayList to do the task for us. Now you might say, well, that's a simple data type. Why don't you add an integer? Well, what the system does is it automatically boxes. It's called it puts that simple integer into a new integer instance and adds that to the data structure. All the data structures that are found in the JDK require objects, not simple data types. And if you have a simple data type, it will automatically box it into a class and then push that into the structure. So I don't need to check for any errors or anything. This thing grows. If we add something, it automatically grows to accommodate what you're trying to add. And there's no if statements involved. Now, in terms of the pop, well, let's see. We're going to take a look at the size of the array. I suppose we could have also done what we did before. If it's not, we can only pop if this data structure is not empty. I think it's more consistent. So let's do that. If it's not empty. Do we have an empty? Empty. Oh, it is empty. Wait a second. What do we call that? Empty. Oh, we got to be consistent. Let's call this empty. This method is empty. All right. Now we're consistent with what we had before. If it's not empty, then the problem. Okay, it's not really a problem, but arrays you need bracket notation. That's how you access something in an array. But since this is a class, what you need to use is a method. Okay, you can't do this. You can't use bracket notation on data. The compiler is going to say, "What are you doing to me? This is not an array. This is a method, or this is an object." And the only way you could do anything to an object is through methods. So the closest thing you got is a get. So get this particular index. So get that particular index. So we grab the size of the array, the top of stack. Okay, get size. So get size. If we push 3 elements on the stack, get size will return 3. So what we want to do is grab the second element, grab that value, remove. That's a method that's part of the array list. We're going to remove this particular element, and that actually just physically removes it. If you had 3 elements on the stack, we're removing the last one. There's now 2 elements on the stack. 2 elements in the data structure. We return I. But if the stack is, let's get rid of this. We don't need that. If the stack is empty, we get to line 26. We need to return something, and we go and we output the message. Peak is pretty much the same as what we had before. We're going to try to be consistent with the other code that we have. So if it's not empty, then what we're going to do is grab that value, the one, take top of stack, grab the last one. We're not going to remove it. That's the basic difference here. We're not going to remove it. We return that value that we got. Otherwise, if it is an empty stack, we output an error message. How do we know if the data structure or the stack is empty? All we need to do is call the isEmpty method on the data. See, this data is an array list. An array list has gobs and gobs of methods. Okay, and so you try to locate the method that you might want to use, and there's an isEmpty method on the data, and it returns true if there's nothing in there. If you removed everything or there's nothing in there to begin with, that's what it returns. And likewise with get size. Get size simply returns the size, the number of elements that we put inside that array. That's not the capacity. You could have a capacity of 1,000. But the size of the array is the actual number of adds you performed on the array. So that's what that gets returned. We return that, and then we have a toString that's like we had before. And I just had to make sure I changed that bracket notation to a get, and the same logic is there. So let's take a look at the driver. We've made the changes. Let's save everything. Let's save this, and let's go to the driver and run it. And hopefully there won't be any error. No, it is. It works exactly the same. So learn array lists. If nothing else, the array list is one data structure you're going to use a lot in your studies, in your work, in programming work. An array list is found in every modern day language. So it behooves you to understand it. Okay, we'll see you in the next chapter, chapter 11. Okay, catch you later. Bye.